Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Hold on. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I didn't. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I gotta get you on. Hold up. Where am I?
Assalamu alaikum.
So, alaikum assalam. I got so caught up in the vision of you, I forgot to push the buttons that I need to be pushing. So hold on, let me get the rest of it happening here. All right, you hear me okay?
I hear you great.
Okay, great. Let me shut down all this other stuff here. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go out. Seems my earbuds are not hitting, so there's a chance that my earbuds might be
on Blog Talk. You're a little distant.
Let me switch up just to get you started. I should be straight by the time you finish. In any case, so you hear me. I'm sure Blog Talk hears me. And alhamdulillah, how you doing?
Actually, on Blog Talk, you're a little distant. Like your sound is muffled on Blog Talk.
I have to go back to Pinocchio style.
Alhamdulillah.
Let's show this. Wow, subhanallah. All these entanglements here. Goodness. Almost there.
That's okay. Good. We are here and present. Made it to another week.
I'm sure.
That's what it is.
You know, Blog Talk and everybody else can hear you real good. So go ahead and steal some space for me,
Well,
do a little dance, sing a song,
welcoming everyone on this second day of spring, entering into this new season. And we are in the midst of getting ourselves prepared for the beautiful, blessed gift of Ramadan that is right around the corner. So it being a season of growth and everything else, like this is prime time, right, for us to like be inspired and grow in all ways of our lives. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting that we keep coming here. I see if you got it.
Yeah, I'm straight.
Yeah.
Now
okay,
I have to Gotta go to the old school scenario. I'll see if I can get my earbuds charged while you're speaking. In any case, here we are together again.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, we
How have you
are.
been?
Alhamdulillah. I've been good. Just like every day I have restructured my thinking around each day that I make a commitment to do something each day to get me closer to what my goal is. Like sometimes when we set goals that are years down the road or what have you, we don't really take the time to say, okay, what did I do today to get me
Yeah.
closer to that? Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be a bit more intentional about that and in celebrating that. Okay, you did do that. Because what I realized is that the consistency is the brick builder towards the goal that you're
Absolutely.
trying to do. So the consistent behaviors, I'm seeking to maintain those consistent rituals that support
Alhamdulillah.
the life and behavior that I want to live. So it's not easy because it is a level of inconvenience because we're used to what we used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, I have been finding moments I had good time with family, had good family time this weekend. And every time when I have that moment to kind of check in with the little ones and the young energy and with moms, it fills my tank. So yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's wonderful. Let me sign off to your part of it as I go away. That the Prophet says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, two things bearing on what you're saying. And I want you to know how naturally you are on the path, right? The Prophet said, peace be upon him, that Allah said, the best of your deeds are the ones you do most consistently. Okay. And that saying in the hadith, I translate it for meaning purposes to mean the best of you, meaning the one that's going to achieve the aim, the one that's going to experience the benefit, the compensation, the remuneration that comes from that behavior. That's what the best of you actually means, right? So it's like the best of you who is best in the treatment of his wife. The best of you is the one who is best in the treatment of the guest, right? The best of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others, right? So you can just translate the best of you to the one who will be successful. Translated to that. The one who will be successful will be the one who is best in the treatment of his wife. The one who will be successful is the one who is best in his treatment of his guests. The one who'll be successful. So that whole, whenever you see a hadith like that, that's the one that's going to be successful. And then the Prophet said, peace be upon him, he said, he whose 2 days are equal will never be successful. So that means if you only do every day what you did the day before, you ain't going nowhere. You marking time. You have to add to whatever it is that you're working on. But you're doing that naturally. So I'm saying you have embraced the process, and that's your fitrah. Leading you on, and I'm about to get out the way, exit stage right or stage left, whichever. Right,
Depending on where you're looking.
That's right, exactly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of our listeners on Blog Talk Radio and those who are tuning in live via StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook. I am Camila Shuaib. I am the CEO and owner of Love is Always the Subject and a spiritual empowerment coach. I utilize the tools that are available to us from the Lord of all systems of knowledge for us to create and be able to navigate this life by recognizing our system of being, right? And so that's my intro for today, right? So to lead into this conversation, because I have been very much wanting to understand the ideal of legacy, and not from the scope that has been fed to us in one way, but based on Khalifa, being Khalifa, and the way that Imam has define Khalifa as like we engage the earth, engage and establish. That's legacy, right? And so what do we engage and establish legacy in? This conversation about, everyone who's in business or who does community work, or your quote unquote, and I'm putting up air quotes, your purpose, right? We associate that to be the thing that we engage and establish is based on our purpose, right? And what I love, which is so beautiful, and this is, and every time I say these things, I want to be clear in establishing that these are tools and ideas that have worked for me, and I'm sharing them. And I encourage you to dive into find your unique relationship with Quran and your unique relationship with Allah, because it is something that no matter what you express to other people, Allah has a very special and specific relationship for you, between you and Allah only. There are places within you, within your mind, within your dreams, within your life experience, that no matter how you try to express it to other human beings, it's not for you to really, you could try, they won't get it, because it is sacred. It is a sacred relationship that you have between you and Allah. So I encourage everyone to really dive into finding what that is, and the beautiful tool that we have access to, with which is the Quran, and the life example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will help us to unfold that, what that is and what that means for us. So I say that to say, in this ideal of looking at legacy, I'm come this time of thinking about our name, right? Our name. We just got finished talking about this ideal of rituals, our name. So, for example, we say we are Muslim. Muslim is one who submits his will to Allah, that we are in submission to whatever Allah wills, we submit to that. And in this submission, there are rituals, there are tools, salat, zakat, hajj, Ramadan, and the declaration, right? These are behaviors that if you say you are Muslim, you utilize these tools and principles, as well as others that have been identified when we look at the uswa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That like this is the way we understand this idea of when we say we are Muslim, right? Or when I say I'm a woman, right? So like there are very clear and specific ideas and movements that embody that. So now when we look at this ideal of our purpose and what was mentioned in the video today, when we talk about legacy, so Lamborghini has a legacy. You know, who else? What other family name? Ford has a legacy. I'm thinking of cars right now, but most of these big, Hilton is a family legacy, right? And the tool utilized was their business, but it has their name attached to it, right? So when we think about our name and we think about who we are, whether it was the name that you were born with or the name that you chose when you became Muslim, in that name is a code. Okay. And this conversation I had earlier today with my accountability group was, sometimes we struggle so hard to fulfill this identity that has been given to us by the outside environment. And then we wonder why things are so confusing, because that's not who you are, So this space of tapping into our original self, who we are, who we were created to be. I'm grateful to have been born to my parents, right? But even in the midst of them choosing my name, the name that they chose for me, they didn't choose that name. Allah inspired the name, and they were obedient to the ask, listened and obeyed, and said, this child will be named Camila. this child, naming my other siblings, this child will be named Safia, this child will be named Hanifa, this child will be named Muhammad. Like, so there was an ask that was inspired and they executed that. So in our names, it's not to be ignored that that gives you part of the code of how to engage and establish, right? And so when I look at, I had a great time just kind of deciphering this idea of name, and that our name is the seed and the community nurtures who that individual is. That when we look at a seed, when we look at a seed before it is planted in the soil, the seed just holds the potential for a thing. It's not, when you get the thing that's to be planted in this small seed, is the possibility of a huge garden or a big tree that gives off more, right? And that part of it helps us to know, okay, in that code, well, where does it need to be planted? There's a certain way that a rose bush needs to be planted, and a certain way that a lemon tree needs to be planted. There's a certain area that it needs, a certain season that it grows, it's more lush in, and that, because of the code that is written on it, right? So when I look at my name and the definition, I don't know it by heart, but I have, like, see that frame up there, right there. Imam Pasha used to do the meanings of names and would sell them at conventions. And I remember getting one for myself, and I got one for my son years ago. I mean, you got to know it had to be years ago, because it's just been a while, right? And I've always known my name to be complete, one who is complete. And that's the early stages, right? The early stages of our community, our knowledge, and what we understood names to be. I believe the Imam even had a name book, right? And it's just the name, and then it's just a one-liner, right? But as our communities evolved, and as the education has evolved, and what we understand about the language, about the Quran, about the Arabic language, the Quranic language, it unfolds so many other pieces that we didn't have access to, right? It has evolved. So in me reading recently, as I have been working on my book, like, in reading the name, I was like, oh, okay, because the definition of the name is literally all of the things that I do, and how I show up, and how I present, and the things that I used to run away from, that Allah has always said, no, ma'am, this is what you're supposed to do. It was all in my name, and in my name, in that seed of who I am, the physicality of that. I have been nurtured in a community that helps to grow the potential and possibilities of who Allah said, this one shall be named this Camila, right? And I'm plugging my name in because I'm saying myself, but I'm saying this to encourage one to look at, what is your name? Who are you? In that is your legacy, and in that is the responsibility that you have to engage and establish what needs to be established in this existence, this earthside marketplace, right? Because when we think of what that means for people who come in contact with us, there's an energy that comes with your name. There's a way that when you show up, they'll know, oh, this is the one you go to for X, Y, and Z, based on how you show up, right? So if the things that you want to embody in life or build in life are out of alignment with what has been the seed that was planted, which is your name, you're going to always struggle. It will always be hard. It will not be something that will come to you with ease, because though you may think you chose your name, and sometimes people change their name 4, 5, 6 times. It's like, why? Are you running from who you are because you're just like, yeah, this won't fit? No, sometimes it's about being still in the choosing and understanding that, okay, this is who I am, right? Because everything else that's attached to that is what will grow from you being clear about who you are. If you know yourself to be a person who is, when you say, trustworthy, right? Then anything and everything that you come in contact with, the work is with you understanding trust, understanding integrity. So I'm trustworthy in business. I'm trustworthy in family. I'm trustworthy in friendships. I'm trustworthy in community engagement. I am trustworthy with my relationship with Allah. So what does that mean to be trustworthy? If you're not in alignment with that part of you, then you're growing something that will not be of any benefit to humanity and to this earth. So these choices that we make that say who we are and how we are supposed to show up, that's the origin of the study, to understand what's my purpose, right? Because even in the purpose, that purpose is in the being the fullness of what is identified as saying, I am Camila, I am Fahim Shuaib, I am, like, even with that, right? So very beautiful experience just to expand on, because being blessed to have more time to study and be a student, I'll sit and I'll get ideas of things and I'll just jot them down. It's like, oh, let me explore that. Oh, let me explore that. And I'll just jot them down, like in the parking lot. I got just different little notes, right? And then I test it on me, like, not to create a curriculum for like clients that I work with or any, like, I become my own test subject. Right. So it's like, okay, well, let's see about this whole ideal of manifestation. These are the things that I said. This is what the Quran says. So let's put that to work and let's see what happens. Right. So I become my own test subject. And it's exciting. I love that part of it. I love that part of being able to recognize as the signs show up, like, no, might not want to look at it this way, try that. And then I have beautiful resources around me, like the imam, like other teachers, and even like podcasts or things that I may listen to, that I go to and say, I have this thought, help me understand X, Y, and Z, right? But I do consult myself first, and I do the work first in that part of it. And then I take, I honor those resources of individuals and teachers that are outside of me in order to kind of really flesh out or confirm this ideal I had. So the beautiful experience was today, when I spoke about this concept that I had been working through about name. Who was also my best friend, she's in the session, and I was talking to her about, okay, so tell me, what's the meaning of your name, right? And so she said, well, my name was changed because we're both first generation Muslim. She said, my name was changed at 6 years old, and she gave me her birth name, and then the name that her mom had presented to her as her Muslim name, and she agreed. 6 years old, it was just like, yeah, I like it, I'll take it. And so I asked her, well, the name that your mom gave you, what was that? And she gave me the meaning of that name, and she started to see the correlations of the kind of work that she does, what she's drawn to, how these things line up to her. And so she kind of went down the rabbit hole of looking up her birth name, the birth name that was not of Islamic descent, that was not in alignment with her mom's transition to Islam. And even in that name, it still held those same principles and ideas. And I got excited. She was like, what? I said, look, Allah is masterful. Like, Allah is masterful. And like, sometimes people get like a little, they trip out about how excited I get when I have the time and opportunity to really sit and ponder and talk about how masterful Allah is, and shows us how masterful the design of how we live, and that everything we need and all the answers that we need access to are literally right there, if we choose to look for it, right? If we choose to not be distracted by those other things. So in that, both these connections, it triggered something in her to understand maybe I'm putting a bit too much attention on this part of my life, and I need to be paying more attention to this because this is who I am. This is how I need to incorporate more of these character traits in my business. I need to incorporate more of these character traits in my relationship. I need to incorporate more of these characteristics in how I interact with my parents and with my children, right? So it changed. It's a complete paradigm shift has taken place because she was stressing herself to be in this way of thinking and way of being that was out of alignment. Was it good? Yes. But it was a struggle. It was like, I told her, I said, so what you were trying to do was you're a lemon tree and you was busy trying to be an apple. They're both fruit. They both are beneficial to the world, both beneficial to the community in all ways, right? But somebody else is going to be the apple. You don't have no business trying to be an apple and you was born to be a lemon. Because from that lemon, so many other things can come to light. You can make lemonade, you can make skincare, you could, I'm using these analogies because I'm a baby of metaphors, right? To best understand what that looks like. So when I look at what it is for me, then that means that when I start, so just on the base level, because the definition is a lot longer and I don't have it in front of me, but just on the base level, one who is complete, then there's an energetic response within myself that says, when you start something, Camila, you need to complete it. This ideal of half do is not in your makeup. You move in completeness. When you have an ideal or an inspired thought, you are in charge of seeing it through to the end, right? You are in charge of the integrity of closure. You don't just leave things just out hanging in the wind, right? And of course, all of the other things that go with the definition of my name were so much more in alignment. But this part of it, when we start to think about the legacy, you seek to leave behind this mindset that you have established because you were being genuine, honest, and authentic to the one that Allah created, which was you. You're being authentic to be the one that Allah created you to be. And you leave this established beginning, this legacy, in order to remove the obstacles of those that come after. Right? So if you are peaceful, if your name means peaceful, how are you establishing peace in your community? What is that act look like? Are you interacting peacefully with your clients or business partners? Do you advocate peace in relationships and conflict? What do you give yourself peace? How do you find that? What does Allah say about what peace is? If you're using the narrative of what the outside society says, oh yeah, peace is turn the other cheek and peace is this, it's like, okay, who gave you that narrative? Where did that come from? Right? When what we really need to be looking at, what does Allah say about love? What does Allah say about complete? What does Allah say about justice, if your name means justice? What does Allah say about kingdom, if your name means kingdom? What does Allah say about the garden, about paradise? How are you establishing that energy here and now? Because you are that seed that has been sent here to engage the earth and to establish a community of all of those energetic needs in order to continue to thrive as a community, as a whole, beyond this physical body that was brought here. So know who you are. And in you knowing who you are, that legacy is undeniable. That long life, that fullness of what that brings to all of humanity is accessible. And in that, you will be pleased because you're moving in your being. You're moving in the wholeness of who you are. You're not trying to be something else. You're not Silence of the Lamb trying to put on somebody else's skin because you're denying yourself of who you are, right? But you're embracing the fullness of who Allah created you to be. And with that, I'm going to call the Imam back into the room. Thank you so very much for this moment in time. You're muted.
I'm out here. Now I'm not.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah. See, that's why I pay you the big bucks. You keep me on track. Alhamdulillah. Excellent. So many things, so many comments to that go along with that. So we can have a conversation offline about it. But I will mention this. I was trying to find inside of Imam Muhammad's publication. I got a stack of 10 right next to me. In one of the books, he mentions that for as far as even all of his children, he was reluctant, or he was always reluctant to name them himself. He leave that to the mother. In that frame, he was also saying, like, and I'm saying this is endorsing what you're saying, is that he said whenever anything gets a name, that's the name that the world knows it by, then that's the name that Allah intends for it. It's just that's what the world knows, like Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, I don't know what it is. Somebody knows, no doubt is there. But that's the name that he's known by for history, the evil uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes. That's what he's known by, Abu Jahl, and that was his nature, right? And so even as the Quran says, Alama Adam ala asma'a kullaha, and Allah taught Adam the nature of all things. Most time we translate it as names, right? But names are nature. And one more piece, because of the way that this world,
I'm here for this.
This world reveals and hides at the same time the wisdom, right? So when you sign a contract, they say give you what? The signature. The signature. It's
sign
your
of
signature
nature.
Is your signature is a sign of nature, and then they have a whole science, graphology. They can read your signature and profile you. All right, because that the quote unquote the truth is in there, right? So alhamdulillah, you're on track. You must have had a pretty good teacher or supporting staff that supports your knowledge growth. I'd like to meet them someday because I'm really impressed. Alhamdulillah.
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 Well,
grateful.
Thank you so much. And we're going to move on down the road right now. Love you.
Love you too.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we're continuing on the whole legacy issue here. And let me make this comment. The spiritual responsibility of leadership. This is a way that you can help support Camila in her literary pursuits, supporting the kind of thinking and the kind of messaging that you're hearing from her, and many of those things that you don't hear from her, but she speaks about her accountability group, her business in Indeed. And so this billboard right here, which I'm about to take it out, but I'm mentioning it to you right now, that is a way that you can support that endeavor for her. So you can check in on ifundwomen.com/projects/love, always the subject, and make your contribution. Allah bless you for that, because we all benefit in that product when it comes forward for us. Now moving on, I want to acknowledge and welcome those who haven't. Alhamdulillah, Bilalians, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I want to share and get on with something, continuing the issue of the culture of legacy. Let's say this is information for my co-host too, but an on-air announcer. We're going to be doing the special guest interviews. We're going to do those once a month. So in that way, we can keep content that we are offering a little more compact, because as well for me and my way of doing things, I'm going to have to take a couple of steps back in order to get everybody caught up with whatever it is that I might be wanting to share today. But it is a continuing. Could conclude. Would like to record the session. Okay. Uh, get these things to working right. Is it open? Should be open. Trying to get it to show that window. Okay, so now I gotta do all those permissions. I tell you what, it's important enough, Camila. I'm gonna need your help again. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and bring you back in. But there's some system preference things that I need to do here in order to get my PowerPoint served up. So I'm gonna bring you back in, sweetheart, and I need you to just
I'm here.
Do what you do, and as soon as I'm set, I'll be right back.
Okay, good. Those that are joining us, because I see, based on the Facebook page, that we have quite a few viewers that are with us live. This exchange, this opportunity for us to have these conversations is an exchange, and it is, though we are here to share out information, we are here for you, that we learn from each other. So always are seeking a currency exchange, whether it's from individuals on Blog Talk or those that are live. So we encourage you to type in any questions. So I do want to make that open and available to you all to put any questions in the chat space, so that we can hear what it is that you would like to share. Okay, that's one. Two is, like, when we start to look at in this preparation for Ramadan, as we get ready for this blessed month, this is that time, when we align ourselves with, I'm just so drawn to, just our experience with nature, the science of nature. And in understanding this science of nature, it gives us this opportunity to really see ourselves reflected in the earth, in the world. Right. So we're coming into this springtime and this time of new growth. This is considered a season of rebirth, a season of new discovery. That what are we looking at to map out what our experience, to be in alignment with what is happening within the world, for ourselves in this growth? What new mindset is it that you want to approach the world with? What is the old mindset that you want to release in order to give space to the better parts of who we are? What are those practices going to look like? Usually we set goals within, coming into this month of Ramadan, about how much we want to read, what area of our life do we want to focus on, being more intentional about what that interaction is and what that exchange is going to look like, will allow us to experience the richness of that experience of this beautiful month that we have been blessed to see again. So I want to, I still, like I said, still want you all to engage with what that looks like, and let us know, what are those things that you do? What are the new rituals that you will put into place? I always feel like there's this part of me that has always understood that though Ramadan is in alignment with the moon calendar, there are still opportunities throughout the year that we can have a Ramadan-like experience year round. How do we recreate that? Like our energy and excitement about reading the Quran, our energy and excitement about engaging with the community, our energy and excitement about staying up late or getting up early for Salat, what that looks like. How do we carry over those habits and behavior throughout the year in a healthy way. And I'm not talking about in an overdone, extreme way that you lose sight of this human experience that you're having, but that there is a merging of your spiritual experience as well as your human experience with the practices that you gained during the month of Ramadan. So if you found it yourself that you say, well, this Ramadan, I'm going to make it a point to do more congregational prayers. Are you striving to make that happen throughout the year, to where it's not something that you go so hard in this month, and then later on in the month is something that you release, right? So what is that thing? And then connecting it to the things very specific to when I say who you are. What are those things? What are those attributes of yourself that you're seeking to establish in this experience amongst your community? If you don't have a particular community that you are a part of, then find those friendships. You know, I think that it's so very important and healthy for us as Muslims to have like minds that we surround ourselves with, because it secures our standing, and it encourages our growth. It encourages us growing and being our best self when we have the support of the teachers and of the environments and of the classes and all of those resources that can nurture us. So when we talk about this nurturing of us being planted in the soil is the community, right? And so what is that community that nurtures those best parts of yourself? If you don't have that, then it's very important to seek that out, because you're limiting your level of growth. You're limiting how much of the potential of yourself can come out and be drawn out of it. There's only so much that can happen, you know. So what part of yourself says, okay, I have to force myself to be a little bit uncomfortable, and I might have to drive a little further to get to the community. You know, I can't let this ideal of the pandemic keep me away from interacting with the community. And if there isn't a community, create it. Create the community. Create a space and an opportunity to get together with other Muslims that you know, reach out, make that conversation, and have that interaction with them. There are so many platforms that we can find ways to make that happen. You ready? You're muted on Blog Talk.
I'm ready on the level of it is what it is. On the level of mashallah. So
Yeah.
let's go. Those of you on Blog Talk, of course, you know we're still on the StreamYard, Facebook, YouTube side of it. The straight time for Blog Talk is about to be out, but as long as you don't hang up, everything is just fine. I'll be able to complete my ideas. I will take maybe about 30 minutes just to cover the idea. Mashallah, I updated my computer, and certain permissions for screen sharing had been eliminated. I would have to restore that. That's all I can give to you as an explanation for right now. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and share the idea. Mashallah, you won't have the benefit of the visual that I always like to share. But to go on with, understand that this being the primary question that we're actually dealing with, and that is, you know, we're so far behind. We're so far behind. How do we catch up, right? And I'm talking about in terms of economic establishment and the like. And there seems to be so many things that have worked in the past against us and seem to continue to work in the present against us. And I really want us to get a greater understanding of what is actually truly working in our favor right now. Many things have been working in our favor all the time and continue to do so. It's all a blessing. Usra yusra. But I want to get to a specific asset that I need us to understand. But let us first understand the nature of what it is that we're actually facing. We read a quote from the Imam. I'll read it again. It's from March 30th, 97, when he was here visiting for one of our Eden of Elegance events, Common Language Syntax and the African Plight. And he spoke about this relative to our need for a stable identity. However, it also applies to us with reference to everything we need of a civilizational value: education, governance, economics, and religion. So I read the quote and then we carry on. He says, as long as we sense the loss as a burden, that is the loss of identity, as a burden, it will be a problem for us. But if we can ever confront the loss with our rational mind and try to dispel the darkness in that situation so that we can understand it, it will not be necessary for people to go back to what they were in order to have a sense of their identity or a sense of freedom or a sense of originality. The whole, this is not to put it down, but the Imam is saying, well, let's consider this. Okay, so let's say you go back to Africa right now in search of a stable identity. Is that what you have to do? And is that what you will accomplish if you actually do that? So in any case, so he's speaking to this felt need and this proposed solution that some have about, well, we need to go back to our quote unquote native original country. So the Imam says, if we can understand, it says, dispel the darkness in the situation so that we can understand it, it will not be necessary for people to go back to what they were in order to have a sense of their identity or a sense of freedom or a sense of originality. It is only necessary that they confront it with their rational mind and accept it, explore it, and examine it so that you will know it and understand it. Then you can either try to reconstitute it, that is that life, or you can say it's not worth it. Begin where you are, or in the reality that you are in, as the realm of your reality. End quote from the Imam. Now, we gave this quote on the tail of listening to a couple of videos in the prior 2 or 3 weeks about intergenerational wealth and the things that have worked against us in terms of making that kind of economic established progress at large. Yes, we have some outliers in certain different areas. Black billionaires are not rare, or at least as rare as they were for a long time in the past. But the overall economic circumstances of Bilalians hasn't changed in general. And so we shared a note, and a part of our presentation that our presenter today restated the fundamental differential between quote unquote white and black family wealth, and that the median family wealth for quote unquote whites was 171,000, and the median wealth position for Bilalians or blacks is 17,000. So there's a 10x difference right now, and that difference has lasted from for a very long time. The numbers change, but the differential is growing. In fact, that is the big difference, because I'm looking at the chart where in 83 we were much closer. With a 50,000 difference, but not having the other number for us. The range, the gap is larger now than it was even back in 83. And so what's been pointed out, and this is a fact stated in different ways, and it was also restated by the presenter in the first part of this broadcast, they pointed out that from 1619 to 1865, we were subjects of slavery. And then from 1865 to 1968, there was legal discrimination. That is, the government was deliberately holding us, quote unquote, out of and away from access to those things like GI Bill and other things that were mentioned. FHA, housing loans with the redlining, and all those other things. That's 1865 to 1968. So again, no progress being made in that regard, and with a deliberate effort, not just an effort, a deliberate structure on the part of government and business elements in this country to continue to hold the ex-slave, quote unquote, down. And then from 1968 to 2018, which is where these numbers go, is still continuing discrimination. And we have recent, this year, the whole idea of the way that properties are being appraised in certain zip codes, they're being appraised lower, and so the equity is being stolen with a pen for as far as the valuation of the homes. So the point is, from 1619 to 2018, so literally that 400 years, there has not been a setting and a scenario and a facilitation, everything that the progress that have been made by Bilalians as far as the economic position is concerned, and that still being a 10x difference between whites and blacks, has been with pure struggle against practically every institution that's established. And so that progress is despite all that has been done. One of the numbers that we pointed out when we first introduced it, we'll bring it again, that the estimated value of the labor performed by the black slaves, so that's between the 1619 to 1865, that's just that work, 1619, 1865, and then that wealth being compounded at only 6% interest from that time, 1865, the end of slavery, up to 1993 at 6%. The value of that was $97,100 billion. $97,100 billion, right? And currently, right? And so that's how much, that's the head start that was given to those people by virtue of their virtue is hard to use that term, but the foot on the neck. I'll figure another way to say it later. That's how much that was worth. Then I look today at the 2020 global GDP. The 2020 global GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. So GDP is all businesses and services added up all together. That represents the GDP. So the GDP for the US are all business, all goods and services in the US economy. Okay. But the global GDP means all goods and services in all countries for 2020 was what? $85 trillion. 85, that's an 8 and a 5. 85 trillion, that's today. That's in the business world today. All of China's business, all of Africa's business, all of America's business, all of Europe's business, right? The total GDP for the globe is less than the value of slave labor brought to the benefit of America, $97 trillion, right? So in terms of this, you talk about a head start. That head start, and then you talk about those who have been fighting against the one who has had that leverage for all this period of time, who uses the very wealth and the wherewithal that came to them through the exploitation of their labor and the continued suppression of etc. of them. And now that one is talking about being in the competition with this one. It's like, what are you really working with in terms of that? What is it that you're really working with in terms of that? So the relevance of Imam Muhammad's comment is, let's do an assessment. I'm just saying it's already done, so I'm speaking rhetorically. It's like, okay, let's assess the fact. How far are they ahead of you? Well, as of 1993, $97 trillion was the value of what they got from the labor and the discrimination and etc. All right. And so what's the median family income 17,000 for blacks, 171,000 for whites. Okay, so let's compete with them. And what is it that you're going to compete with? I mean, what are you going to compete with? 17,000 can do what? What do you have to compete with as resources, etc.? So that's just a snapshot picture of, it's like, literally it's like throwing stones at tanks. If you want to pit what you have against what's there, based on what's being used against you, that's really not a fight you can win. That is really like a symbolic fight. But we don't want to talk about symbolic fights. We've had enough symbolic fights. So what really and concretely can be done? One of the quotes from also the previous videos that we played to introduce our broadcasts in the past few weeks, it states that if a man enters a race 300 years after another, he would have to perform some incredible feat in order to catch up with his fellow runner. So ask yourself in economic terms, what is it? How is it? What would it take for Bilalians to be able to catch up and close that 10x gap between their families and the quote unquote white families? It's like it would call for some incredible feat, right? Well, I want to introduce something to you, reintroduce to some of you, but in this frame, I want you to look at it again. And that's this. Personal wealth. Let's get to the definition. Clear. Personal wealth. He said, okay, if I ask you, what is your personal wealth, right? What it is when you do an assessment of what is your income, right? Listen, your income is not your paycheck. Your income is just that. It's a salary, right? But it has work that it has to do. And the work that it has to do is to service the debts that are tied to your life, etc. So the income is only what remains after you have settled your debts vis-a-vis through that salary. Okay, so your salary minus debts, that's your income. All right. So then that you can identify as income. But if your salary doesn't leave anything after debts, then you really have no income. Your income is zero, even though you paid the mortgage, paid the car note, paid the insurance, bought the food, etc. All those things are things that you will actually have to expend, and the only thing that remains that you can identify as wealth or as income is salary minus debts. Okay, income. So if you do have some income, and then you add to that as a part of your personal wealth savings, and then a main source of wealth, personal wealth, to individuals are their inheritances. All right, this is a whole nother subject, but Muslims need to understand the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him, tells us that it's better to leave your children and your families well off than to leave them with their hands out to others. So establishing an inheritance for the future generations is sunnah. You want to hear it that way? That is what you have to do. So you want to follow the sunnah, then get yourself in a wealth position to be able to have some inheritance to pass on to your subsequent generations. And what happens is once you have this wealth, so you imagine whatever the number might be for somebody's personal wealth, that wealth grows and compounds over time, right? So once you have that, then what it will do, it will grow. That's the nature of wealth. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. You know, I know the Temptation song coming to your mind right now, but like it rolls and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what has happened to those who have exploited our labor. They have that, and we described it in earlier programs. Social scalability. They're able to do more because they have more leverage with that particular wealth, and that moves them further ahead of those who don't have the same access to capital, wealth, and the like. And that's what causes the gap to grow. And the only thing that's going to close that gap, if we're interested in the gap, but I think we shouldn't be so as interested about closing the gap as we are about building our wealth, right? Okay, they got what they got. They did what they did. It is what it is. Okay, like the Imam says, start where you are, start with in the reality that you're in, and just and focus on that. So build your own wealth. So what they got, that's what they got. What you have will be what you build for yourself. And it's time to stop looking at and pining over that and being real clear about what you are doing to build the wealth for the generation that's coming up behind you. I mean, you wouldn't want your generation coming after you. You know, they got a recording of how you behaved in relationship to what you quote unquote might have done for them, and all they heard was crying and whining and complaining and excuses, etc., for why they don't have what they have. You don't want them to listen to that recording. You got to get something done on that. So wealth grows and compounds over time. Now here, and we're about to go a little bit deeper into this part of it. Some of the other assets of the wealth of the wealthiest are assets. That is, some of the sources of wealth of the wealthiest. There are assets. So if you have gold, you have fiat, which are like, government currency, let's call it. Real estate, securities. These are some of the prime assets that are owned by people who are wealthy. All right. And so what I want us to understand is that statement about the man starting to race 300 years after someone having to do something, but have to do something incredible, an incredible feat in order to catch up. I'm saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in our presence something that will do that. Okay. And I'm saying it is Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a blessing. It's the grace of Allah. I'm going to rhetorically answer, it's manna from heaven. I'm just telling you. And we've been saying this for some time, but I'm going to just give you a little more meat to it, because the idea is, okay, whatever that 97 trillion was, however far it is behind, the 10x difference between the wealth position of white families, black families, etc. What can close that gap fast if you have a focus on the gap, or what can move you down the track faster than even these other assets, even the personal wealth assets, the salary assets, the savings asset, the inheritance aspect, and the assets of gold and dollars and real estate and securities. I'm telling you, this Bitcoin does that. It's a blessing from Allah. It is. Y'all, you can deal with whatever you do. I can just hear somebody say, "Oh man, you worshiping Bitcoin?" Whatever. I'm telling you, count Allah's blessing. Let me hit you with this real quick. Y'all already heard this. Where it said the man was caught into a flood situation, right? He's in a flooding situation, and the water was rising, right? So the water came in the house, and then he wound up on top of the roof. He said God is going to provide. And then a big log came by floating, where he could have got on the log. He could have got on the log and went on down the road. And then somebody came by in a boat. He said, "Well, the Lord is going to provide," right? And so he didn't go with the people in the boat. Then here comes somebody in a helicopter. They dropped the helicopter line down. He said, "Oh, the Lord is going to provide," right? And so the helicopter had to go on because the water kept rising, and the man drowned. And when the man drowned, and he finally was faced with God, and faced God in the judgment, and he said, "Lord, I believed in you, and I was expecting your help, and you never came. You came to help." He said, "Well, look, I sent you a log, I sent you a boat, I sent the helicopter, and you didn't take that. So blame yourself," right? So this is one of those kind. It's either a log, or it's a boat, or it's a helicopter in the economic scenarios that we're in right now. And Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. But let me just put some teeth to what I'm talking about. What you see in front of, no, you don't see it because I didn't get to share it. All right. I'm looking at a chart. Oh yeah, this is the bigger loss for what I wanted to share. So, any case, I'll just give you the numbers, and we'll have to just go from the numbers. So when we talk about the value over these other things that are assets as compared to Bitcoin, I'll just run the numbers here for you. Bitcoin is better than what I'm looking at is this. Asset classes. I'll read the whole list. Some of it's going to be familiar, and a lot of it's not going to be familiar to it. U.S., the NASDAQ, large caps, small caps, real estate and investment trusts, These are things that cover the whole country and have global reach. All right. Long duration treasuries, preferred stocks, EAFE. What that's Europe, Australasia. That's Australia and Asia combined, and also FE is escaping me right now. Stocks, those stocks, high yield bonds, investment grade bonds, emerging market bonds, TIPS. I don't know what TIPS stands for, but it's not tips from like a restaurant though. Emerging market stocks, U.S. total bond market, gold, U.S. cash, and commodities. So commodities includes everything, oranges, oil, sugar, whatever, commodities of all types, right? So these are all compared with each other, and they're compared across a 10-year period of time, seeing how each one of them performs. And so what I'm about to tell you is about the performance of Bitcoin as compared to all these other assets, all these wealth building, wealth preserving, wealth appreciating assets, right? And I want you to understand, Bitcoin is an asset that you have access to. So many of these others you can't even touch them and get involved with, even though you may not necessarily want to, once you understand what their real merit and demerits actually are. But by this comparison, so I'm going to give you a comparison from and to those asset classes: gold, dollars, real estate, securities. And now when I get to the securities market, that's global security, just like I talked to you about global GDP. So that's everywhere. So this list here is talking about the global market for these types of securities, right? The large cap, the small cap, the NASDAQ, and all these other, quote unquote, we generally call them stocks or what have you. But the preferred stocks, EAFE, the emerging market stocks, although that's all of them, but that's at the bottom. Let's move. So Bitcoin is better than all of them. That's as of 2021. 2021, the Bitcoin price is $29,391. You should see how much of a bargain that is right now. At this moment, it's like 41,000, right? But in 2021, when this chart was made, it was at 29,391. And this chart also shows the annualized 10-year appreciation, right? The annualized, meaning that when you average how much it grew over a 10-year period, 2011 to 2021, you annualize that appreciation. And for Bitcoin, the annualized appreciation is 230.6%. 230.6%, right? There's also a way of, and they do this for all of these assets that I've just talked about. They give a cumulative percentile appreciation, right? And the cumulative, I need some commas to tell you what the cumulative appreciation for Bitcoin was in the same 10-year period. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. 20,037,142%. Yes, you heard it right. 20,037,142% from 2011. That's the cumulative, right? The annualized, meaning that, okay, take that 10-year period, do an average of the whole thing, then what you got? You got 203.6%. That's the average for the 10 years. And some of you know that the first expenditure, the first purchase of expending Bitcoin was 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas or something like that. 10,000 Bitcoin. Those same 10,000 Bitcoin would be worth $420 million today. $420 million today. And this is in 10 years, right? All right, so much for that. So that's the way that's you want to see something that grows over time and that appreciates, etc., and that you have access to, and there's no hoops and ladders for you to jump through in the way that you can't get to some of these other things. That's how open. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made available if you would take advantage of it. Gold, by comparison, gold compared to Bitcoin, right? The annualized 10-year appreciation for gold from 2011 2021, 3.3%, 3.3%, right? And I make a note here about and one of the strengths that you can see about Bitcoin on another level is look at Russia and Ukraine right now. The issue is going on in Russia and Ukraine. If you had a lot of gold somewhere, it's probably in some building somewhere. And once somebody comes in to take over the country like Hitler and the Nazis, it's like they're taking the gold too, right? And if they're bombing houses and bombing buildings, that's also real estate going out in that way. But that same loss is not suffered. Yes, even the computers that get shut down in the buildings in Ukraine doesn't matter because Bitcoin is on a decentralized system, around the world. And as long as you have your seed, what you call it, the seed phrase, some cases 12 words or 24 words, when you know what that, it doesn't matter. Find a computer, get somewhere, get your Bitcoin is there and available for you. So it's not subject to those kinds of things that you see happening over there. All right, let's deal with dollars. Okay, so you see gold moved 3.3%, Bitcoin moved 230.6% annualized in that same period of time. So which one is more valuable for as far as store of value, gold or Bitcoin? Fiat, that is plain dollars, government issued money, Federal Reserve notes, right? What is its numbers? Its numbers are 3.3% also, about the same as gold, right? With all of its ups and downs or whatever, 3.3%. What about real estate? As compared to Bitcoin, the average 10-year appreciation of real estate is 9.3%. That's taken over all real estate. It has only grown in the 10-year period of time, 9.3%. Now, mind you, comparing that to 230.6%. So you do the division, and then that's where you get your X's from. 9, what is it? 2, it's 2.5x. 20. 20x of real estate. Bitcoin, 20x of real estate. So 9 times 20, that would make it 180. So it's even less. It's even more than that. Trying to do some fast math. But the point is, you divide 9.3 into 230.6, and then you can see how much bigger Bitcoin is in appreciation over all real estate. Okay, right now. Okay, these are all we're doing comparison between those sources of assets that wealthy people put their wealth into, and comparing it to what this Bitcoin is actually doing. And also, finally, with securities. Now, again, I say these securities that I'm speaking of, these securities are securities market all over the whole the global securities market. So you got securities in Japan, securities in Europe, securities in Africa, securities in America, securities in Australia, etc. It's like, how did they perform? 10.3%. All of them, 10.3%. And again, so I think I can do that math. 23 times, Bitcoin is 23 times outperforms all securities markets, right? So that's phenomenal. We can't leave Berkshire Hathaway out as an outlier. Everybody loves Berkshire. It's the darling of investment, the Oracle of Omaha. Yeah, I got caught up between Omar and Omaha. So Omaha. So the Oracle of Omaha, Berkshire Hathaway. The current price of Berkshire Hathaway, $580,000 per share. $518,000 per share. That's $500,000 per share. You want to get some Berkshire Hathaway? Come with your $500,000 and you can get one. MashaAllah. And how has it performed? Oh, it outperformed all the other things that I talked about. It outperformed gold, it outperformed fiat, it outperformed real estate, it outperformed security. Its 10-year appreciated performance is 29.57%. Yay! But let me just do some fast math, and so that's 9 or 10%. So it still has been 9 or 10x'd by Bitcoin. And him and his partner, Charlie Munger, Bitcoin is rat poison, whatever. That's because you're in another kind of business that is competitive, because some of the people that invested with you, they're going to start moving toward Bitcoin because they say, now, why should I keep getting 3.3%, 5.9%, 9.3%, 10.3%? Well, I can get 230%. So people are going to start selling their securities, selling their real estate, selling their gold, selling their dollars to move over there. And if you're already sitting there, then you just ride the rise. And it's that kind of position that you're in. I got to give you these numbers so you can appreciate this, and we won't have to go back to it next week. Listen, make a note of this. Mashallah, I'll get my stuff together. Sorry, I can't show you this. Some of you have seen this actually before, since some of others, but no matter. Okay, 1 Bitcoin. It says here 1 bit, and remember, you don't have to get a whole Bitcoin in order to get in the game. Okay, but let's just talk in terms of 1 Bitcoin. One of the reasons that it will continue to rise and grow in its wealth and appreciation is not just because of the math, not just because of what it does as a store of value, but because there's a point in time that Bitcoin is going to become, for those high net worth individuals, just a status symbol. And the very fact that it's so rare and hard to get to, that's the whole NFT talk. We don't need to talk about it, but the whole NFT talk is about that rarity, is about that aspect of it that makes it work. But Bitcoin has a rarity that is directly tied to its value. So it will be, and in some cases it already is, a status symbol. Oh, you got some Bitcoin? It's already a status symbol. It's called a Veblen good. One of the ways that Michael Saylor describes it, who's one of the early adapters from the corporate side of the world and got into it in a big way, is that owning 1 Bitcoin will be, or is like owning 1 city block in cyber Manhattan. Just imagine if 100 years ago, just as an example, if 100 years ago somebody bought a block of Manhattan, right? And they still own that today. What do you think it's worth, right? What's Bitcoin right now? You look at the 41,000 price tag and wince at it. Okay, well, that's because you're thinking in terms of dollars. But if you think in terms of future value, and really it will not be a long time, Allahu Alam, but it'll not be a long time. It's like it'll be 400,000 in a short period of time relative to the horizons for the appreciation of many of all these other things that we've been talking about, wealth, stocks, securities, real estate, and the like. The value of Bitcoin has gone up as we've spoken of just in the past 10 years in a very big way. But I'm saying to own one is like that. So it's like to own one, it's like grab it, hold it, sit on it, ride with it. It's going to go up, going to go down. Keep it. Okay. That's like owning real estate in Manhattan when it's much cheaper than it will be in the future. Going back, and what's the value? What's the relative value of that 1 Bitcoin? What does it do for you as regard wealth position? It puts you in the top 0.00, the top 0.003% of the richest people in the world. To own one, it puts you in the top 0.003% in the world, right? And this makes you among the ultra high net worth individuals, and which, by definition, are those who have $30 million or more in assets, right? What means that those who have that kind of money are those who are sharing in 11.3% of the global wealth. This, I want you to understand. If you have 1 Bitcoin, then that's who you're in their neighborhood. You're in their neighborhood. Yes, and that's based on, of course, projected future value, and that future value is fast arriving. Okay, so just to get one, hold it, just and you go on about your business doing other things, right? And even also setting a goal of getting to the place where you have what can be counted as one just by dollar cost averaging, other different ways. This is financial education information. It's not advice. Do what you have to do for yours. Last thing that I'll mention before we have to go ahead and sign out. Listen, we've heard a lot about the one percenters, right? Occupy Wall Street, whatever, one percenters, right? If you own 0.28 Bitcoin, that is, it's not even a whole Bitcoin, just a little more than a quarter of a Bitcoin, 0.28%. On the trajectory that we're talking about in terms of the continuing growing value of Bitcoin, that will put you among the one percenters in a Bitcoin world, regardless of the price of Bitcoin. That is, I try to make it simple as I can. It's like, okay, I got this. Let me tell you what that is. Right now, today, that's something like $11,760. Let's round it off to $12,000. Let's just say if you happen to have $12,000 and you invested it in Bitcoin, so you own 0.28% Bitcoin right now, right? Set it and forget it and let it do whatever it's going to do, mashallah. So in these coming years, we talking 2023, 2024, I mean, stuff is going to jump. Look at all this stuff, Russia, Ukraine, China, and Russia, America, and the BRICS. These people setting up systems to go around the dollar and systems to go around the SWIFT system. Look, everybody say, look, man, we're tired of King Dollar, man. We're gonna do our own thing. And so that's going to make those people who are in possession of this thing that is outside of all of those systems, that thing it's to the moon is what the language is given. So it's like, so you sitting on 1.28, you don't even have a whole Bitcoin, just not 1.28, 0.28. You have put yourself, and in your subsequent generations, you have put them in a position to be among the top wealth holders in the world, right? So the whole idea about how we got ripped off in slavery and legal discrimination, continuing discrimination, all the rest of that, it's like, actually, that kind of investment and the power of that investment, it erases the economic features of that. Okay, we got to deal with all the other aspects of it, but the economic impact and the dependency and lack and all of that, you can wipe that out if you get yourself. It's not financial advice. Just telling you what I do. All right, Miss Haja Camila Shuaib, we're about to check out of this berg. Let me get you back up in her. So this is it. Let me see. Everything's hitting. All right. So let's see what Abdul Shahid is saying. He said, Camila mentioned that there are times when she gets excited about something she happens to hear or learn. I too have experienced that phenomenon, Imam Shuaib. I think of that as a form of haya. Yes, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. What do you think? Yeah, let's come alive. It's life. It's life, yes. And for sure. Alhamdulillah. Go ahead, Camila. You got something?
No, I was saying that the importance of like what you're speaking about and not allowing our age and time to keep us away from this technology learning gap.
Oh man,
that is so important, because the only thing that's separating us from what is coming, what's developing, what's growing is the knowledge of it. So this idea that it'll be whatever it's going to be, we have to release that mindset and thrust ourselves in a position to set some time aside to exercise that brain and learn it and understand it and find ways to understand it. And Allah will support us in that effort towards wanting to know and understand.
Yeah. I remember a conversation with the Imam, and he was talking about the ways different things where he used the term fated, Fated, meaning that it's governed by this and governed by that. But the one that stood out in my mind, he mentioned other things, but the one that stood out in my mind, he said that wealth is intellectually fated. Wealth is intellectually fated, right? So a lot of your wealth position has to do with how you think, think and what you know, as is also said that money flows from those who don't know to those who do know. So if you don't know how to make your clothes, then your money's going to go to the one who does know how to make your clothes. You don't know how to set up a grocery store, then your money's going to go to someone who does. You don't know how to fix cars, your money's going to go to someone who does. So the bottom line is, in order to get in the way of some of this money, you need to know something that has value. And that another hadith of the Prophet, as we conclude, the Prophet said, peace be upon him, surely the best among you, you remember what we said, is that the most successful among you. It says, surely the best among you is the one who is most useful to society, right? So it's like, okay, what are you good for? That's the question, right? What are you good for? Okay, if you're good for this, then the world's ready to pay you for it, right? Because you're good for something, right? And nobody wants to, hey, man, you good for nothing. No, you don't want to hear that. You're useless, such and such. So you have no use, you have no good. That's bad news. Bad news.
Yeah.
All right, sweetheart. All right, everybody. All right. Thank you so much for being with us through all my technical guffaws and the like. But we're going to get it worked out. Just keep on rocking. Only Allah is perfect, mashallah. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.